Erika Lust is a self-described feminist porn producer based in Barcelona, Spain, who believes the best way to change the way that women are sometimes portrayed in porn films is to get more women involved behind the camera. I spoke to Erika about her mission and how she believes a movement for the conscious consumption of porn is critical for the industry. So you were a poli-sci and a gender studies major. How did you get into porn?
Well, it's kind of a long story, and it actually started when I was young. I was a young adult, and I wanted to know more about my own sexuality. And as many people, I looked at porn, and when I did, I had this feeling somehow that it didn't really work for me. I felt like my body did react in one way. I did get excited. I did get turned on by the images, but at the same time, I didn't really like what I was watching. I didn't really like the kind of roles, how women were represented, and I felt there must be a way of doing this differently.
You know, you talked about kind of watching porn and being a little conflicted because, you know, there's some things that you found positive about porn and arousing about porn, but then other things you were uncomfortable with. But I mean, that happens to a lot of people, but they don't leap into actually making porn themselves. So how did that happen?
That was kind of dairy, and that happened years after I had had my first kind of feelings and ideas around it. And I had moved down to Barcelona in Spain, and I was working in film production, and I had an opportunity to make a short film. And when I sat down and started to think about what kind of film do I want to do, then I felt, my God, I want to try to make a movie that could be explicit, but at the same time exciting for me, a movie that would show women from a female point of view, the female gaze, and then I just dared. I did it.
So you've been called a feminist porn maker. Is that not an oxymoron?
Well, I used to say that I am a feminist and then I make porn, because I see that when you talk about feminist porn, people do get very confused. They don't really understand what you're talking about. They feel that in feminism that there's kind of this element that is anti-male somehow, and that in porn there's another element that is anti-female. And then they start trying to imagine what feminist porn could be. And many times they ask me, but Erika, is it only women? And then I say, no, that would be lesbian porn, right? And they go, so feminist porn, what is that? Like ugly women with hair under the arm, ready to go out in the world and, take the men. For me, I think that pornography is just media, and it depends on the values you have as a creator. What do you want to do? What values do you have? What do you want to show? And for me, what is really important is showing female representation, but also male representation in a modern way, where people have equal relationships and where they are actually getting into it with passion. And then it's also about participation, about who's behind the camera. And that's why I'm working with a crew that is almost 80% female based.
Oh, that is fascinating. Do you think more women should be doing porn?
Definitely. I think that more women should be involved in the process of making it, of starting to think about what would we like to see, what are our fantasies, and I think it's important, because what we see today, the porn that's actually out there, most of it is created by men, and women. We are even a little more than 50% of the people walking on this earth. So I think it's only fair that we're starting to show our female gaze and what we want and what we desire in our sexuality through this media that is porn, or even we could say mass media, because porn has actually become mass media today. People are talking about that it's 1/3 of the internet. So those are huge numbers.
So some people, I haven't seen your work, and some people are going to hear you talk and they're going to say, oh, I know exactly what she does. It's going to be the sort of soft focus stuff, gentle touching, suggestive dialogue. That's what people think of when they think of female perspective porn. Is that the case?
No, it's not at all the case. The movies are actually explicit, but at the same time, I mean, for me, it's so many different components that gets together here. I'm a filmmaker. I love film. I have always done. So one of the ideas behind my films is really showing great cinematography. It's showing, you know, all the ingredients of good cinema and putting that together in combinations where people are actually having great sex and interacting sexually with each other, also communicating to each other, because I think that is one of the things that I miss in a lot of mainstream porn that's out there, that it's only about, you know, about banging, smashing, pounding women in all possible position, but not really of having people getting together, communicating sexually, even talking, you know, about consent, what they like, what they want, etc., etc.
Yeah, this is a different era of porn. It's so much more accessible. You can get it in the palm of your hand on your phone, and it's free. And when I hear what you're describing, I think it runs contrary to the way many people consume porn now. Because the way people consume porn is it's a click of the button, you just sort of watch the scene that you're interested in, you put in a couple of keywords, and you go from scene to scene to scene to scene.
Yeah, this is happening because of what is called the free tube sites that's out there on the internet. But I think we have to become conscious when it comes to these free tube sites, because actually most of the content that's out there is stolen content. So the whole idea of it being free is false. And then I think it's important to remember that porn today is actually kind of a monopoly. There is one huge company that is the owner of most of these free tube sites online, and they have even bought many of the studios that's out on the internet. So maybe they are owners of even almost 80% of the adult industry.
Yeah.
And porn is not so different from other big industries. If we are, you know, we have all heard about big data. We've been talking about big food. We've been talking about big pharma, even big fashion. And I think that what is going on with porn is something quite similar to that. And when you think about it, they are not really interested in, you know, making a product with the best possible ingredients, with the best nutrients for all of us. It's about concentrating power and earn money. And the same happens with the porn industry. They are there to earn money. That's what they want. They are there to drive traffic. That's what they are looking for. They are not doing the best possible film to represent human sexuality and its diversity, and trying to show how you can have, you know, a great sex life in different aspects.
I think about what you're proposing, what you're talking about when it comes to porn and socially conscious porn, kind of like what's good for you versus what's easy. And it seems like people are consuming porn in the easiest way. Do you think they could be wooed away from that easy consumption and get into high quality, socially conscious porn, if you will?
Well, I really hope so. And I think that you know, when you talk to people and you make them conscious and you talk about how it's being done, who is making the porn that's out there, what's going on behind the cameras, and then you're starting to tell people to actually go online and read the taglines on all these free tube sites and see the sexist, misogynistic language, even sometimes racist language that is being used. Then I hear lots of people telling me, Erika, I didn't think about this before. Porn was just something that I used to watch, kind of like fast food. It was something I consumed in my life, but I never really reflected upon it. And now when I started to think about it, I realized that the porn I was watching is not done in a correctly way, and it's not representing the values that they have as a person. I really think that what we need here is an alternative, because there's many people who wants an alternative, who want something different, who are not in accordance of the values that they find on all these tube sites. That's not the kind of sexuality that they live in their own lives. It's not the kind of sexuality they want to see represented on screen.
The Porn Conversation, it's your nonprofit. What's that about?
The Porn Conversation was a project that we started, me and my husband, a few years ago, because we have two daughters. They are growing up. They are 9 and 12 today. And so many parents around me started to ask me, Erika, how do you do it? How do you talk to your daughters about sex, and how do you talk to them about porn? Do they even know what you do? How can I tackle this situation? So we created a site online with lots of resources where we have written 3 different PDF guides that you can download from different age groups in explaining a little about how can you actually talk to your teenagers about pornography. Because I always say to people that it's kind of the same as, preparing your children or your teenagers for the world we live in. I would never let my daughters go to a bar or a discotheque without talking to them about cigarettes, alcohol, or even drugs. I think it's necessary for them to know how I feel about it and how they should react if these situations would come around. Mm-hmm. And the same happens with porn, because they are gonna stumble upon it. It's on the internet, it's out there. So I want younger generations to be able to reflect on it. I want to tell them how I feel about it. I want them to be observant and to understand that much of it is very sexist, and that they should be aware of these values. Mm-hmm. And that porn is ultimately exaggerated fiction of sex, but it's not the same as sex.
Erika Lust, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a great pleasure. Thank you very much.